Well, how do you think we have audio? What do you think? Do you see good things happening on your side of the... Welcome everyone to the Nutmeg Tavern. We are live and we're probably even on time. There's our nutmeg. Hopefully you can hear me. If you can't hear me, chat. If you can't hear me, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say to all that.
Looks like it's good.
Okay. Yeah, we are one person down. There's on your side of the time vortex, there's only Lauren in the chat. The console is unmanned. So horrible things could happen. If they do, well, you know, that is such is life. And this live stream, I guarantee you, is going to be a little more relaxed because I've been out of town all day long on my horse and buggy, transacting some business. And so I'm feeling a little, well, my voice is already shot and we're not even 2 minutes into this live stream. So welcome into the Nutmeg Tavern. I am your host, John Townsend, and we're going to be doing fun 18th century stuff. We're going to be talking about fire. And, you know, I've talked about fire in videos in the past. We talked about kind of individual fires, but we wanted to look at this concept of fire just a little bit more generally, specifically because it's the time of year when, if you have fire in your house like I do, it's when you start to, you know, you put wood in the fireplace or your wood stove and you get excited about that. That's like, I don't know, maybe the only good thing about winter is that you can hide in your house with your wood stove or your fireplace and you can relax and say, oh, it's terrible outside. I can't go outside and work. I'll stay in here and drink my warm tea by the fire and read a book. Or whatever you want to do by the fire. And so that's what we're doing here in the Nutmeg Tavern. It's going to be cold out. It's supposed to get cold out, what, Sunday?
Maybe some snow.
Maybe even snow. Mm-hmm. Now, it's November, right? It's time. It's time. I was thinking about that as I was bugging in, how it really feels like what it should have felt like at Halloween, which is kind of like, it's a little too green out here. But we're starting to really get into this November weather. You know, overcast skies, never see the sun.
A bit of a nip to the air is Halloween.
Still
very well.
Yeah, it's still pretty beautiful, but we're on our last probably beautiful day, and it's going to be getting colder and chillier, and we're going to say, how do we live like this for 4 months, 5 months? How is this even possible? Well, one of the reasons it's possible is because we have fire and warm tea. So we got some pictures of fire in all its different aspects, and we don't think about fire that much. We use fire as entertainment, as comfort, as this or that. Most people, I don't even know what the percentage of people that have access to open fireplaces or wood stoves in their houses. Somebody might be able to look that up somewhere on some strange information device. But in the 18th century, you did not live without access to open fire. Open fire to cook your food, open fire to heat your home, open fire to light your home. It was just the way they lived. No second thought about it. And so when you go looking in literature, like, oh, somebody probably is in a novel and they're talking, you know, they're explaining striking a light or how they start the fire. They don't talk about that. They just don't do it because it would be like us or you on your side of the time vortex going in and explaining in depth about how you go and flip on the light switch. Well, I go and I find a little lever and it's in the wall and I turn it from this to that and electricity flows somewhere and something happens and what?
My mic's not working. I'm just going to test.
Oh, try a couple. Just press all kinds of buttons and see what happens.
Okay, maybe it's this one.
Did you find it? Okay. You know, you just don't find that. So we don't have a lot of sort of literature about that, a little bit. And so we'll maybe touch on that. But so the differences, we really do need that upside down world or foil as it were, that you would like find in a novel. That person who forces the author to explain a thing. They're like the dummy or the time traveler. What's going on here? I don't understand. And then the author can explain all this. We don't have that so much for the 18th century in fire. We have to sort of write it ourselves to understand what's going on with that and how ubiquitous and constant it was in their lives. And it just isn't for us today. When was the last time you had to start a fire with flint and steel? You don't have access to any other way to do that. That's pretty darn rare. So let's look at some pictures. Lauren found me a bunch of pictures of fire in all sorts of aspects. Is this where we're supposed to start off? These little guys? Doesn't matter. These,
No.
they, yeah,
it'll be fine.
it'll be fine.
They don't need to be made.
Yeah, they don't need to be in great order. Again, with the console and nobody being there. But here we go. And again, with the kind of this picture of someone feeding the fire, now this thing looks like a big pitcher. And in effect, some of the cooking pots they had in the time period were basically like a big ceramic pitcher. They were sensitive. They can be broken easily. Why this one hasn't broken yet, I don't know, but it probably will break. They aren't necessarily meant to take the heat kind of like that, but they're not concerned about it. Maybe they're silly soldiers and they haven't experienced actual cooking and realize that bad things are about to happen with their cooking vessel. Nonetheless, the fire is what we're talking about here. Here we kind of see someone in a home and the light from, I don't know, did you interpret this as a raised hearth or a candle lantern that's lighting it up?
I guess I interpret this as a hearth, but yeah, I think it's actually a lamp or a lantern.
I think so too. Sometimes you see these images and you immediately sort of interpret them one way in your head, and then the minute you're actually seeing them on the screen, you go, wait a minute, something else is going on here, which happens to me frequently. But I thought the artist did a tremendous job of expressing light in a dark area. That is not easy to express in art. So you don't see it a lot necessarily. But here we have a nice, sometimes there are very talented artists in the 18th century, and that's what they specialize in. Fun, playing with art, playing with light in the dark, and trying to express that. We get that all we want today with modern recording materials, but not so much in that time period. This one, he's got this very interesting little blow tube. And blow tubes are like an expression of bellows, but done by hand. And this one is like a fork and a blow tube together. So our little blow tube that we sell is a little squared steel like hook that's meant for moving around logs, but it's also hollow and is made into a blow tube so that it's got this dual purpose. And it's just a tremendous piece of equipment to use in a campfire situation. How do I blow this fire into flame without burning all the hair off my face? And he's doing a little scientific thing there. That's an alembic little still, basically, and he's doing some other little chemistry things there. So having a little blow tube so that he can have very, very precise heat at particular spots is very important. But it's also got that fork at the end, probably for moving around logs or little pieces of wood. Very interesting little image there. The tinderbox is so incredibly important in the 18th century. We don't even think about it today. The word tinderbox has kind of disappeared in the last, say, 120 years. But before that, tinderboxes were ultra everybody's going to have one. Everybody's going to be familiar with one. If they don't know how to use it, they're one of the, you're like somebody who doesn't know how to tie your shoes, right? It's just, that's not the way life is. So here are some tinder boxes. These ones on the left-hand side have candle holders built into them. The one on the left, just a smaller version, any little box like that can do. You see a piece of flint. Boy, is that a worn piece of flint. Doesn't look like it has any sharp edges on it anymore. A striker. And then inside the tinder box is the tinder and the kindling. So using something like char cloth or punk wood that will catch a single spark and continue to glow. Not easy to do. And then you blow that into flame in your tinder, which is any very fine fiber that will continue to build that flame, and then you're kindling any little pieces of wood or whatever. It is definitely one of those pieces of artistry. I don't know, can you find the link to the fire starting one where I built the fire right during the live stream? Yeah, that was definitely a must-see episode with exciting things that happen right during that. But anyway, I asked for this little tinderbox picture here in this because it's one of those things. Again, it would be, there are probably houses that don't even have matches in them today, but you definitely would not find a house in the 18th century that did not have some version of a tinderbox. Just not unheard of. Fire tools. So these on the right-hand side were little toys, weren't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
They're actually toy examples of we look at them, we can't tell whether they're full size or small, but these are actually little tiny things, like you might find in a dollhouse or whatnot. And then, of course, the lady on the right here has a set of bellows that she is using in her fireplace. Very common tool that you would find, and you really kind of need something like that. It isn't as easy as a light switch. You're going to have to nurse that fire. You're going to have to blow it into flames and all that good stuff. Now, she looks a little finely dressed to be using some tool like that. She might have a charwoman.
She thinks it's fun.
Yeah, maybe. Quite likely. Stop playing in the fire, but nonetheless, I like that. This is what we all want to do, isn't it? To sit by the fire, to warm ourselves and relax. He's awfully close to that very big fire, but maybe he really needs to warm up. And he's really missing his book and the side table with his drink on it. That's what I would have. Maybe he doesn't need very many pleasures in life.
He just wants a warm
He
fire.
just wants a warm fire. Fire isn't just a household thing. It isn't just a cooking thing, but it's an industrial thing. So open fire is being used in every industrial setting, small manufacturing, whatever. They're using open fire to boil, to heat, to solder, to bend, to all this stuff here. And this is it Wright? Is the artist's name?
I think it was John Derby Wright.
Yes, John Derby Wright. He is depicting here, he does a lot of these there's several different blacksmith art pieces like this. The light is all coming from the metal itself. And a big piece of metal like that is super hot. To really get it, moving, and to move that metal, obviously the blacksmith isn't going to work in complete darkness with just the metal. It's the only thing that's heated, but the artist is representing that here. What you see there is a giant trip hammer. So a water wheel, more than likely, could be a windmill, but it's more likely a water wheel, is turning this big barrel that's behind the hammer there. And on that big hub are little poles that stick out, and as it turns, it picks up the hammer, and then As it goes past that one point, the hammer drops. And you can see how heavy the head is on that hammer. I don't know how heavy that particular piece would be, but it might be a 200-pound head on that hammer. And that's how you get the real work done. So it's just turning, it's just, going up and down, going up and down. And you just move that metal around underneath it while it's hammering it. And it would undoubtedly, it would fascinate me if I was there. I'd want to watch them work on that for hours. And little kids are interested to watch that. And here we have this whole kind of interest here. Now notice the person that's in the center, not holding the metal, but he would be holding the metal. But look at what's on his head. He's got like a scarf or thing on his head, but it's tilted so that on his other eye, it's down over his eye. And it's because that metal is so very, very hot that you're protecting yourself from it. So you'll see the same kinds of things, a little bit more purposeful, set up for people that are blowing glass. They're dealing with the same kind of situation where they have super hot things they're working with, or super bright things, and they'll protect their eyes and have ways. It's like having a sun visor so that you can protect yourself from the heat, from the light of situations like this. This is a guard room, military guard room in Europe in probably the 1750s or so, and it has a very large fireplace. And we can even see it's wintertime here, and there's that little wall there that helps baffle the heat in the room, keeps the heat in the room so it doesn't just gets sucked out the door. But they still want that door to be open the whole time, so it's sort of like a heat trap in that setting. And very big fireplace, not a very big fire going on in there. Probably because they just don't have a ton of wood in Europe at the time. They've, in a lot of settings, they have already burnt up the wood. They used it to build ships with. And by the time we get into the 18th century, the continent of Europe is just not nearly so wooded as it was 200 or 300 years earlier. We have, again, one of these industrial settings. This is a piece out of Diderot's encyclopedia, and they are dipping candles and pouring candles in this setting. So somebody's over there in the corner working, heating up the wax. Again, standard industrial setting where basically every one of these workrooms has got a little fireplace someplace. So it's there for the industrial process, it's there for heating the room, it's there for lighting the room if you're working in an after dark kind of setting. Is got a ton of different uses, and it's just, be like going, for us to go into any shop in town, it's like, oh, I go to a garage or I go to a whatever, there's going to be a fireplace, and there might be using it for.
And probably the best spot was working right next to the
right,
fire.
exactly.
In the winter.
Right, and then the summertime, it's like, no, I want to be over there by the window. Here we have some kind of domicile, and it has a raised hearth in it. So you can see the fireplace that these guys are trying to escape out of, which, we look at it and go, we think of fireplaces and they have little tiny outlets. A lot of the fireplaces and chimneys in the 18th century were very big. They didn't have smoke shelves. They didn't have, sometimes it's just a straight brick tube.
The whole Santa Claus coming.
Right. It makes a lot more sense. And the idea that you could have chimney sweeps going up. Yeah, it's big.
Somebody had a question. Hold on, let me go find it. Okay, so. Oh no, I can't find it. Let's see if I can. Sorry, I lost it. They were wondering about chimney sweeps.
Yeah.
And, how they had them in the time period. They still have them now. And whether there's been a big change in the technology they're using.
Yeah, well, nobody goes down a chimney anymore, right? You've got brushes and super long handle brushes that you can, go all the way down the chimney from the top, or, from the bottom up to the top. And in the time period, they would have. Can't hear the girls talking. I just think because they're not talking. I don't know. See if you can
I
see.
still don't think my mic's on.
Okay.
I just don't know which of these it
Well,
is.
press them all.
Well, I
How,
guess
how
what
tough could it
harm
be?
can
You know,
do?
you just keep going until
Truly,
you
I'm
find
in
it.
one of them.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, in the time period, they would send small children up and down the chimneys, especially little orphans that were malnutrition, and they could go up and down. So I need a small one. I'll take that one to do my chimney work. Yeah, it was that brutal, and it's. I don't know how to explain it beyond that. We look at it today and think, surely that couldn't happen. Yeah, it did. Yes, it did. This is a depiction of making charcoal. So charcoal in the time period was an extremely used article in the home and in many industrial processes where you might grind up the charcoal and you might use it. You might use it for heating. It's used in, you might use it in chemically. So it's used in many different purposes. And you're going to find a setting where you have the wood close to you and you will make the charcoal at that point. Because of course you lose a lot of weight out of the wood. You don't want to haul the wood to where you make the charcoal. You want to make the charcoal where the wood is. And they would make these specially made piles of wood, and then they would cover them all up with earth and burn it in a very particular, very slow way to create the charcoal. And it might look easy, but it isn't easy. I made charcoal and, it's 80% of your wood burnt up and you get this tiny little bit of charcoal and the rest of it isn't burnt enough. It is not an easy thing to do to get it to work out. I've seen some videos on it. I've experimented a little bit with myself, but it is not something that you can just do without any experience at all. That's for sure.
You want to pause for just a second?
Yes.
So, super chats are being really weird. It disappeared, that one, and then it disappeared another one I was just looking at. So I'm going to tell you about it before I forget.
Yes, go.
So I don't recall the first part. I think it was a hello from somebody in Canada. And they were wondering if you were ever going to do anything more on 16mm adventures.
Unfortunately, I don't. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But unfortunately, thank you, Mikey Mike. I don't see my ability to do that happening soon.
Once you retire, 10 years, right?
I gather skills and ideas and equipment, and my eyes are always bigger than my stomach. Things I want to do, and then things I just have enough time to do. Unfortunately, I would like to, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to.
Okay, I will next time.
Yeah, just jump in. Just
I will jump in right away if I
holler
see
at me whenever you get one of these super chat guys. And I think I might. Okay, there's our charcoal. Family by the fire. Notice how high up that. I mean, that very, very tall chimney opening on that. I don't know what the artist was thinking here. Sometimes it's like that, but sounds like how to make your house like the smokiest house on the planet by having that. I'm not sure how useful that is. It would probably push a lot of heat into the room because that whole upper back of the chimney can heat up and radiate into the room, but it's hard to have enough draw on your chimney to pull all the smoke out. So, but then again, hey, I'm not a chimney scientist. So, a little bit more of a classic. Now we have lots of lighting going on in this one, but the fireplace is more of a coal grate fireplace, which in Great Britain, they're moving to coal because they have coal available and they don't have wood available as much. And so it changes the design of your hearth and especially how you're going to hold that fire. And I would think it would be a much smellier fire. I don't think it would be nearly as enjoyable to have a coal fire in your house. but I haven't had to live with a coal fire, so I don't know how to work that out. But we have candle lanterns. We have the candle holders. We've got lots of hearth things going on again, and he's even going to smoke here. So lots of open fire, kind of this is how a house works. We don't, it's a little harder to find images like this of people cooking outdoors and what their apparatus looks like. We do have images of that. It's just, you gotta look for them and pull them out. And is this a fishing setting? Is he pulling a fish?
I'm not 100% sure. This was an inset from a larger picture, and
Right,
I did not
obviously.
see the larger one.
Right. We have a fire. We have a not a tripod, but a different way of holding the pot up there with two sticks. And the one is confusing. I mean, I could see them just like putting the pole down into the ground so that it remains upright, and then the pole across. But the one of them has a fork at the bottom of it, and so I look at it and say, okay, I'm not sure how that stays up. But sometimes the artist is either expressing things that aren't quite real, or we just can't see something else that's going on there. Let's see, there's Solaris, the long hauler rail fan. If anyone in Middle Tennessee is a good example, would be the Heritage and Travelers Rest. There's a few examples. There we go. Yes, Travelers Rest is a historic site there in Tennessee. So I have not been there. Thank you, Mikey Mike. Here we have another military. This looks like it's Watteau, the artist, but he does some of these kind of military encampment pictures, and we can't even really see what's holding the pot up on the fire. It's kind of murky, but a big kettle over the fire. They're probably cooking for like half the people we see here, and the fire is where everybody's going to want to be, right? It's like not like they're gathered around a tree someplace. It's like, no, get over there by the fire. That's where things. It's like when you go to some house and everybody gathers in the kitchen.
Yep, just like that.
The kitchen is it's the house that's alive.
It's where the food is.
It's where all the food is. It's where the cooking is happening. It's where all this good stuff is happening. It's like, the living room. Yeah, I guess you could sit down, but let's go in the kitchen, right? And that's what we want here. Again, the classic kind of now we've got tripods, we've got the people gathered around the fire. They've been traveling and camping. You stop, and what do? The first thing you do when you stop and you're camping is, where are we going to put the fire? I don't even care where my tent's going to go. Where am I going to put the fire? The center of our lives. Can you share a little about how much wood a small household needed for winter and other options? There's Maxar. Cool. Houses are using a tremendous quantity of, especially in North America in the 18th century. Peter Kalm, who's traveling from Finland, Sweden, depending on how you look at it, he's traveling in like 1750 in North America, and he comments about this. He's like, they use wood like it's going out of style, because here in North America, in that time period, we've got a lot of wood. We're trying to get rid of it. And so there's no reason to make our houses insulative or to make a very efficient fireplace or a very efficient stove, because wood is inexpensive and just burn it like crazy. But the issue for me when I think about firewood in the 18th century is they're not using log splitters or chainsaws. They're cutting that all by hand with axes, with regular long saws, and figuring out. It's a lot of work to create a bunch of firewood. Manual labor. So there's still that aspect to it, and how they got around that, what that looks like, probably an interesting video. we get some explanation of it if you read in Matthew Patton's diary, which I've got one someplace laying around here. He talks about his day-to-day work, and some of those things are in the wintertime. Oh, I went and I got logs for firewood. And so, they would cut them into like 8-foot chunks probably, and then he'd put them on a sled and drag them back to the house to be cut up further for firewood. So he does explain that, and we kind of can probably glean into the amount of entries about how many days he would spend to get enough firewood for the season. I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but they're going to be using a lot of wood because it's used constantly. It's the only heat source, and they are not trying to make it efficient. Let's see, here we go. We've used this image in the past, a wonderful peeling potatoes image, and we can see the fire in the background, the large metal pot, the huge S-hook that is holding it up because it's a large metal pot. Again, a slightly raised hearth, and a lot of fire. Many times in the artwork, we see the fires fairly large. Question: did they need a large fire to get the fire to draw properly? Because it's not necessarily easy to cook with a lot of fire.
Or is the artist taking liberties because fire looks cool?
Exactly. That's where I was going to go.
Yeah.
Or is it just the easiest way to depict something?
Yeah.
Or is it because they like the colors of the fire and it sets it off? There's a lot of different things going on there, and we do have to think about the artist's intention in the piece of art. They didn't intend it to be transmitting information to us perfectly 250 years later. They're not painting it going, boy, now they're going to know exactly what our fires look like. No, they're thinking, this is going to look cool.
Maybe I'll sell this piece
Right,
of
maybe
art.
I'll actually sell one this time if I put some fire in the corner of it. A household setting here with a mother and children and a big giant billowy fire. Again, the artist expressing that all the light is coming from the fire. Might be bouncing around the room, so it's not completely just light and dark, but it feels to me like the artist is really saying this is where all the light is coming from in the room. And it might be one of the reasons why their fireplaces were large, is because not only are you trying to get a lot of heat or whatever, but you're trying to get a lot of light too. Candles are not cheap. If you can get your light from a fireplace, you're going to do it. This, we've done a whole live stream on firefighting, and we didn't have this image at the time. A fascinating image of probably a straight up European Germany or something fire, and the aspect of I remember Benjamin Franklin, and he was talking about the fire insurance, and part of what you had to do for fire insurance was to make sure you had fire buckets. So each house had to have fire buckets, and you see them with fire buckets here. And each house had to have a certain amount of baskets or something that you would use to transport the goods out of a burning house. So you're part of the, I've got a fire, is how do I put it out? And another is, how do we recover the goods out of the house while the house is on fire, to retrieve as much of the value as possible. And here we see not necessarily carrying goods, but throwing them out the window. I don't know what happens if you throw a chair out the third-story window, that it's going to survive intact. Maybe hit somebody in the head. Maybe they're just trying to pull all the fuel out of the house, or the giant building in this case. I don't know exactly what their thinking is, whether they're recovering value or removing fuel. But this whole idea of like breaking into the roof that we see is, that's part of firefighting technique. How do we get into it and fight it? We do see that there's a fire engine there. We see water barrels on trailers and stuff. And if you're interested in more firefighting, well, you can you can go and see the firefighting episode. Did the average home try to keep a fire going at all times? That's Speed and Stout, Tony. Thank you. More than likely, we kind of, where was that? There was some kind of, it's been a long time since I did the research, but there was some kind of implication at one point. I think it was a Roman colony, and they were being punished, and one of the rules was you couldn't go and move fire from one house to another, and it kind of on purpose to force them to have to keep fire in their house, or restart it all the time or something. But yeah, it certainly makes it a lot easier if you keep a fire going. Then that's what I do, and
or at least
yeah.
have a coals, so
Right.
don't have it out long enough that the
Exactly.
coals go dead, and you can still relight it from
Right.
the
It
coals.
makes it much easier to just, kind of go from that. Every week I try to get to the brand new and renewing YouTube members and Patreon. Unfortunately, I didn't do that. You'll have to yell at me, and next week I'll have to read twice as many. But I do want to take this break at the center here and thank the folks that specifically support us through Super Chat, through Patreon, and through member. And even those folks, there are some folks that support us through Townsend's Plus. I want to give you thanks for that. Did you have any other things you wanted to pop in with before I jump back?
I think you got them all. Thank you. Before they
Question
disappeared.
about forest fires.
Yeah. Do we know how they dealt with forest fires?
I
don't know.
I don't hear about them much, and there wasn't much they could do about forest fires. They burnt up. Stay out of the way. What could they possibly do?
Yeah, I think a lot of our ability has to do with
Mechanization.
the fact that we can move around faster.
Exactly.
And
They're
get
not-
around to
Right.
the areas that we can, work
Yeah.
on. And they just didn't have the speed to do it.
Right. The Solaris is talking about fire being used in transportation, such as early steam engines. So in the 18th century, steam engines, they weren't actually steam engines. They had engines that used fire, but they were atmospheric engines. So they kind of worked backwards from a steam engine. Imagine you use steam pressure, but what if you did it the other way around? What if you pushed steam in and you let it cool? It uses a vacuum instead of pressure. So, or in this case, the pressure, the atmosphere, moving the piston from the steam being condensing. So that's what's happening in the engines of the 18th century, as far as I know. And the steam engine, where you kind of you can do this other type of engine with less precision, because all the cylinders, or most of the cylinders at the time, were like wooden barrels. They're made out of wood, so you can't get a very tight tolerances, and you can't work metal the same way. So they were huge, just like bigger than houses, the engines, and they were used generally to pump water out of mines, at least in the early part of the 18th century. They, like everything else, we figure out how to shrink those things down. And so we get to the concept of, can we move a ship or something? Somewhere, I can't remember where, and I can only see it in my mind's eye of an early concept of a steam-driven, like, wagon, basically. But I haven't seen that image for a long time, and so I may have hallucinated it. I don't know. Let's go back to a few pictures. I'm tired of hallucinating. Here is, we could see in that image, let's jump back for just a second. If you look, we can see water squirting up out of a fire engine in the left-hand side. Here is a fire engine from 1717. And generally these are pumped by hand. Guys have I don't see the pump per se on this one, the handles for the pump, but that's what's likely going on with this one, that whole rail will go up and down and build pressure. Notice there isn't a whole lot of water storage in this thing. So maybe water gets dumped into, that's probably like a bathtub kind of wooden box there at the base of it that gets pressurized, or pumped out of. So these guys are coming in with buckets, filling that up, and then it's squirting it up. I believe, I don't have the picture offhand, but they have something like this at the Owl's Head Museum in Thomaston, Maine. And I've got pictures somewhere that we visited it a couple of months ago, and unfortunately I don't have those separated out for us here. But we've got fireworks, and we've done whole live streams on fireworks. Notice, so this person on the one side has a torch or a bundle of sticks that they're using for lighting the firework with. I'm not sure what the gentleman here on the left-hand side, how he's going to light his firework, whether he's going to do that with flint and steel, or sometimes they had like a grenadier in the 18th century, and especially probably in the 17th century. He had grenades, a grenadier, and they were just like a cast iron ball with a fuse sticking out the top. When we see the classic bomb kind of emoji, that's what their grenades were. And they would have this lit match. Basically, it's a rope that burns very, very slowly. And they would have that built into their uniform so they could light these and then toss them. Probably work perfectly for something like our fireworks here. And here we have giant fireworks going off with huge audience, probably somewhere in Europe.
Yeah, this is royalty. This is birth of, a prince or something.
There we go.
Everyone's very excited.
It looks dangerous. Probably more than one person died putting on that fireworks show. We've got people gathering firewood here. So again, probably from the Rijksmuseum, Dutch, more than likely. And in the wintertime, people are gathering up firewood. And you've heard the words by hook or by crook, right? Mm-hmm. Well, by hook or by crook is talking about gathering wood off of trees in the wintertime, maybe even in the summertime, by a hook or by a crook where you're pulling it down and breaking it off. Mm-hmm. So the wood that was on the ground was claimed by a certain kind of person. You couldn't cut the tree down, but if you could break off the lower branches, you could keep it, I think. So
I'm sure
it's been a while since I've read that particular aspect. But in this case, a certain class of person or a certain situation, it's like, okay, you can go and pick up this wood. It might be one of those things like kids could do that. And this is actually the best kind of wood to have for cooking. It doesn't work great for heating your house. That sucks for that. But it works really good for cooking. And, people are selling bundles of sticks, moving them about. Poor people are using them for heating, and they're probably something that you can gather and sell into houses. So, anyway, it's like, oh yeah, I could use another bundle. You could always use another bundle, right? It's like one of those kinds of things where you're going to store a certain amount and you never have too many. Here, another set of people see how the trees got all the limbs cut off of it. You're going to take the opportunity with trees that if they're dead, it's just like, no, we're going to take that wood right off of there. This tree might still be an apple tree or something, it's still good, but parts of it are dead. Oh, well, we're going to definitely take that away and burn it. Nice sled there they're hauling people with, a couple of them. They've got a knife or axe sharpener by the door of their cottage.
This is a couple of weeks. It's going to look just like that.
I know. Move on. And there we are back at the beginning. So here we go. Yeah, through all those. It took me forever to get through those. Gosh, John, you ever tried doing anything without blabbing for 100? Let's take a look at this. This is Encyclopedia. Fire, a general name by which men seem to understand a certain sensation or complex notion of light, heat, burning, and melting. What is fire?
What is it again?
The power of fire is so great, its effects so extensive, and the manner of its acting so wonderful that some of the wisest nations of old revered and worshipped it as the supreme deity. I don't know. I never like when they like to. It's like, and it was for religious purposes. It's like, guys, just stick to the
Were you
facts
just
here.
patting the word count?
Exactly. Let's wax philosophical at the beginning. What was this one? This is I think this is so Diderot's encyclopedia cut all that crap. This literary analysis explores the metaphorical uses of the French term beyond the physical meaning, particularly in a moral and poetic context. In poetry, fire often symbolized love, notably virtuous and noble love when it's used by the playwrights, employed more elegantly in the plural form, and when describing conversation or writing, having fire denotes vivacity and animated expression. And so it is an interesting metaphor for a lot of different things. I don't know that we think about that quite as much. We'll use it as a metaphor without actually kind of thinking about it very much. So
Yeah, I think somebody was talking much earlier about how people respect fire because it's very it's so useful, but it's so dangerous. And I do think that we're kind of cushioned from both those things. Fire is still used for a lot of things, but
right.
we don't see the open flame a lot.
Yep.
And we've put a lot of safeguards in place, even though there is still danger, but without as much open flame. But they lived with both of those things all the time, right?
Yeah,
It's
and they
necessary, but
and they don't seem to be that worried about it either.
no, no, they don't.
I think it's we protect ourselves from a lot of different things when we don't necessarily need to, and they didn't in the 18th century. If you protect yourself too much from something, you don't respect it, right? You think it's safe when no, it's not safe. You need to be more cognitive and thinking about what that is, whether it's driving your vehicles or fire or living with a giant pool of water and being careful not to have people fall in it. Do we have any other coolness?
I think we're caught up.
Good. What else did I have here? Look at all that. That just goes on and on.
It does. They talk about all the little.
You kind of wonder what they are thinking. When they write that much. I didn't have a chance to do enough analysis about that, so I'm not gonna bore you with it because it might not go where I want it to go. But I do think fire is one of those things we just we don't really think about very much, and how much we use it today. But of course, it's all hidden from us. We get things heated up with electricity and this thing or that thing, and we don't realize. It's like, yeah, fire is somewhere. Somewhere fire is being used to do this, and we've just made it remote from us to protect us from it, or not make it so I don't know, immediately dangerous to us, I guess. Super wanted to thank you folks. Let's see what else we've got. The fun new mugs that are available, they are available on the website, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the really cool dragon logo t-shirts are available, along with the stag one and the standard boar ones. I decided we would get long sleeve t-shirts because I wear long sleeve t-shirts. I'll just say that's the reason why we have them, because it's wintertime and you want to have long sleeves. And I'm super excited. There's some great episodes coming up and some soldier episodes coming up. I think this week's episode is going to be on good gravy. So Ryan's going to go in depth on gravy, and it should be really great. And I can't think of anything else. Yeah, you can find one of these mugs in the.
I'll put a link to it.
Right. They are. I've got one like this at home. It's even got a broken handle. It's glued back on because I like it so much and I don't want to give up on it. And these guys are made down at Conner Prairie, and they do a tremendous job on those mugs. And that is the size. If it's smaller than that, what's the point of drinking it? I'll just be filling it up and going over and over again. It's got to be a big mug. Thank you guys for your incredible support of what we do here on the channel. Couldn't do it without you. Wouldn't want to do it without you. What is the point, right? So you're here, helping me out with sometimes just thinking about what is next. All the questions, and that's hard to know for me because I've been doing it for so long. And that is, what do I need to dig into next? So excited. Had a very, very interesting meeting today, and a whole new vein of things for me to learn about. I mean, a giant thing to learn about. Feel a little crushed by it, but it's going to be a thing. So super thank you to everyone and your amazing support. And I want you to have just a crazy great weekend. Friday is over now, right? We can have fun, we can relax. It's the weekend. Thank you, Lauren. Mm-hmm. Thank you, nobody over there. But you'll be back. Yep. And we will have a tremendous time coming up with some great new live streams. I hope you have a great weekend, and thanks for watching. I don't have the... Yay! I do.
You did it.